streaming through the digital night. Jim Bustle, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown, UFOs and the alien zone. He's a man on a mission, exploring ancient secrets, it's his addiction. Debating, discussing with his loyal crew. Cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.
Oh shit. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Kick the background tunes back on there. Welcome to another Skiz0 Sunday. Welcome, Mr. Galentv.
Hello everyone. Thanks for having me again.
Welcome back, sir. Here we are once more. Fuck, that's hotter than I thought it'd be. Yes. Here we are once again. Easter. He is risen. He is risen. That's all I've seen on Twitter. He is risen. He is risen. Day of his rising. The day that Jesus rose out of his tomb. Digi, Divinormus, welcome. Hendrix, welcome everybody. Fun times. My God. How are you on this fine Easter, Mr. Galentv? Did you do an Easter egg hunt this morning?
I did not.
I wish that I did. Huh.
I did, however, I actually did have to describe Easter to somebody yesterday. There's somebody that I think they're fairly recently moved to Canada.
Oh.
And they said at the end of our appointment, they said, Happy Easter. Well, I'm not sure if it's too late for that. I said, no, Easter's tomorrow. And they said, what? I thought it was on Friday. And I said, no. Here's a breakdown of the holiday. And they had to explain to him that it had very Christian origins in it. And that Friday was considered what you call Good Friday. That was the day that Jesus was killed on the cross. And that Easter Sunday is a day that he is risen. And then I don't remember what Monday is. Monday is just like the day after it happened. I think that one is the holiday where they just take the holiday because it's the Monday after the weekend. And they say, you know what, we're just going to have another day off.
I think there was something significant about it. Like, he comes back as a ghost and kills everyone. Is that a Hollywood movie from the 80s? I'm getting mixed up with Easter again. But
I think I think the thine Lord Jesus, the Christ, coming back is supposed to be the apocalypse as he comes back. So in a sense, yes, you are correct. He will come back and kill everybody.
Yeah, and only those who are worthy would survive.
Well, no. The rapture is all the people go to heaven. And then he comes back and he kills all the people and they live on like a hell on earth kind of thing.
Ah.
I think that's it.
Hendrix at Easter Monday is hangover day, so you recover from the binging of drugs and alcohol on Sunday. Well, yeah, that's what it is. Well, everyone was mourning the loss, and then he comes back, and they're like, "Holy shit, are we getting fucked up again, my guy?" But then he flies away. But that's just the way that it is. Kind of like speaking of good fantasy stories. Speaking of good fiction. No, not the fucking flame. The hardcore Christians. The 3-body problem. Galentv, you were saying you hadn't watched this while we were talking.
I have not. It's been on my list of things to watch, but I have not watched it yet.
I have watched it. I have watched all of it. Yes, I have watched all of it. And yeah, it was very good. So it's David Weiss and David Benioff, the producers from Game of Thrones. So there were quite a few actors from Game of Thrones cast for this show on Netflix, which is based on a book series, a Chinese author, I believe. And the premise of the show goes that a young Chinese astronomer, physicist, has some kind of interaction with aliens, let's just say. And then the show kind of goes on from there. That's without spoiling anything. That stuff is kind of all implied in the trailer, I think. So anyway, I thought just short little review from me, just short one. Yeah, I thought it was good. Again, it kind of had, it was a little bit of a different take on it, I guess. It still has this whole, the aliens are very far away. There's some kind of jimmy rigging they did to like get it so that there's some kind of interaction. I'm gonna spoil anything though, but anyway, it was a bit of an unconventional take on a pretty conventional story, which is that the aliens are coming to conquer us, right? It's this whole, effectively, it becomes kind of a I don't want to spoil anything though. I think I'm terrible with spoiling stuff, but it's more complicated than just space pirates. Let's say that much. I thought it was a good take. Now, obviously we talk about UFOs and stuff a lot here, and ufology and all that woo-woo stuff, but yeah, it does always take. I'm not going to say in regards to like this show in particular, because it's more complicated obviously than just this, but in a lot of other series, a popular theme is the aliens are more advanced than we are. They come here and they dominate us, and that's not what happens in the show, but that's the kind of trope, which is always an us versus them kind of thing that happens, which I guess from our perspective would make sense, because studying, interactions with more advanced cultures and less advanced cultures, the more advanced cultures usually end up at some point taking over the less advanced cultures, manipulating them in some way, and then taking their natural resources. Like they end up dominating them. Sometimes flat out, and actually a lot of cases just flat out destroying them. So that I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Again, maybe in nature that might make sense, and then if you extrapolate that out of the universe, you might expect that. But I think with ufology, and anyone that's followed that over the years, especially if you start to get into more schizo stuff like the contactee phenomena, it's a bit of a different dynamic, I think, that crops up. And what it suggests, TLDR, is that there's some kind of government, I think, honestly. We got into this before, but it's a little bit more nuanced, I think, than some of the fiction where it's just space pirates and they're going to come and dominate everything. And I think in our instance, if there's any truth to all those stories, what's implied definitely is there's some kind of controlled interaction going on here. I guess we like to think maybe, or we suspect, or we are speculating that it's just like the wild, wild west out of the universe in the galaxy, because that's what it's like here on Earth. But maybe that's not the case. Anyway.
Is that kind of what the aliens were like? Is you got the impression it was kind of like a Wild West scenario of a space frontier, if you will?
In this show, it's a bit more nuanced than that, honestly. Again, I don't want to spoil anything in regards to the like what happens, but it's not that black and white, I guess. They did kind of a good job of balancing it, but but does a better job explaining the world they come from. Oh, interesting. Okay.
If you would spoil this one thing for me to answer this question, did the aliens in fact possess Big Metal Spider?
No, actually, they did not.
Oh, that was that Will Smith movie called Wild Wild West.
Oh yeah,
the
yes, the Wild Wild West. That song, yeah, he did for a fuck.
Me and Krieg League used to shitpost that as often as we could whenever anything Western came up.
That was
any reference to that.
That was a fucking meme. Was I left with any questions? I guess so. Yeah, there's definitely left on a bit of a cliffhanger. I'm assuming there's going to be a season 2 and a 3 and 4, and hopefully it ends better than the Game of Thrones ended. That's my hope. With Dave and Dave at the charge there. It ended after the first book, The Dark Forest. Oh, it's the Dark Forest book too. Okay, I've heard of the Dark Forest. I mean, obviously there's the Dark Forest theory, but I've heard of I see it. Isn't that funny? I've heard of the second book, so the sequel to it, but I have not heard. Didn't really hear of the Body Problem until you brought it up, did you? Yeah. This was the first book in the series. Okay. Well, Dark Forest is also a concept. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of that theory, which is what he gets based it off of. Yeah. Yes. Which is, where are all the aliens, right? Where are they all? And that's something that's brought up. You would expect Fermi, Enrico Fermi, tried to do an equation, and well, yeah, that's so in ufology, that's what's implied, is that not just that they're hiding, but they might be hiding in spaces we can't see, that potentially they're more advanced than us, and they've hidden spaces that we can't see, or they're able to obscure themselves from us. Would be another way potentially of putting it, without getting into like alternate dimensions and spurious things, I guess. But yeah, you know, in a lot of popular media or fiction, I guess, mainstream like science fiction, it's like people using radio waves and stuff to try and detect the aliens. And it could be very well, this is something Michio Kaku's talked about, I thought it was very interesting, but that, you know, we're just like too dumb to realize that we're actually in the middle of like an intergalactic superhighway. And he's using the analogy of ants before, right? And now some other people have described us in comparison to these beings as ants and implied that we might be kind of uninteresting. I think that's ridiculous, but I think in Michio's example, ants was more to kind of describe how unaware ants are of a highway, right? They would just hear a rumbling. They wouldn't really know what's going on, probably. They wouldn't understand that there's a highway, you know, right beside them that's transporting more advanced beings and more advanced forms of technology. And that we could very well be technologically like the ants, where they're everywhere. The aliens are everywhere. It's just we weren't the first ones, right? We were maybe slower to develop, and that there's all, and that's what ufology definitely suggests, I think. Just the TLDR and all the woo stuff, that there is a super highway going on here, and that's very much what's happening. But which is contrary to like this show a little bit, and many other science fiction shows to do with aliens and making contact with aliens. It's that they're very far away, or they're just coming here to destroy us. And the reality is that they've been coming here for a long time, probably, and predate us by a long time. And anyway, good show. Yeah.
Do you think ants is the right comparison in that case?
What would you use for a comparison?
Well, I haven't thought that far ahead yet, but with respect to ants would know enough to kind of like steer away from something that is perceived danger. Whereas if we're compared to the ants might not know that there's a highway there, but they know something is there. That there would be something that is there. They don't know what that something is. Whereas on our case, we don't even know if there is something there. So would you even go even like further back than that? Like, would you consider,
well, I guess, like sorry, go ahead.
I was trying to think what would be even, I don't know, one of them single-celled organisms.
That it could be. I mean, we do know, we have an idea something might be there though too, right? Like we hear rumblings, but like, you know, the rumblings are like with abductee stories, right? Or people seeing strange craft flying at like Mach 15. Like, and I'm sure there are other things there are many other examples, but we're like kind of metaphorically hearing the rumblings too, right? Of the road. It's just we're seeing maybe passersby come to the planet, right? And that might imply that we're in the middle of this intergalactic superhighway, right? So, welcome, Train Beast. Yeah,
I guess so, because
yeah,
I guess the sighting of like a craft would be something similar to, like, you know, I suppose you see an ant walking, or an ant going about its ant business, and you put a rock in front of it, like a big rock that they have to go around. They're going to go around the rock. Yeah. And if you see the craft, you're going to say something like, I saw the craft. I saw this thing. And then some other ant will come by, and with respect to the rock, some other ant come by and be like, there's no rock there, keep moving. We need more food for the queen. More sugar.
Exactly.
Get back in line there.
That's exactly it.
And which is kind of the same thing. Somebody sees a UFO craft and they say, like, get back to your job there. We need to make more money for our boss, our employer.
That's exactly it, though, right? So maybe it's a little bit more on point than we thought, right? Maybe Bicho was fucking onto something. This maybe we'll play a little bit of this later, but did you know you just brought this up? It's just loading. This is if you watch the Anunnaki video, it's on point as an alien story. So this is a reading from Zecharia Sitchin's book, The Lost Book of Enki. Yes, I do, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't work for the government. It's all the government people. I do have to get up. Yeah, all the government people have that off. I'm very jealous of people who work for the government. But this book, The Lost Book of Enki by Sitchin, is TLDR, a work of fiction. So this story is actually, and it's not quite a work of fiction. In Alien Daddy Origin, yeah. It's so essentially Sitchin wrote, what happened was Sitchin wrote the book, he got it published, and he put it out, and he didn't explicitly state, really, he did say in the book that this was an imagining of what he thinks might have happened, but a lot of people, not like, this obviously is a meme video, right? But like I've seen a lot of people post about the Lost Book of Enki, but yeah, it is a fantastical interpretation of what Sitchin thinks might have happened. Yeah, it lies in the whole lore. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. So I mean, the story, which maybe we can read a little bit or listen to a little bit later, it's a 7-hour long. This is this whole book, I believe. This guy just doesn't give a fuck, just read the whole thing on YouTube. So the Sumerians had this interaction with the Nibiruns, who were these giant humans who came from another comet-like planet in our solar system. They came from this planet. The planet is a very volcanic world. So they were able to live on this world. It's on a very long elliptical orbit in our solar system because of all the volcanism, and it created this kind of like little ecosystem that kept them safe. And then periodically when they come into the inner solar system, they come into perigee close to the sun, they jump off and they would come to Earth to mine gold, which they needed because a hole developed in the atmosphere of Nibiru. And this started to let all the harshness of space in. It began to kind of tear away at this little cocoon they had. So when they came close to the sun, the planet started heating the fuck up. And when they went really far away, it started to cool down. So they desperately were trying to figure out how to heal the hole because the planet was slowly dying. It was less volcanic, etc. And so they came to Earth. They had this solution that they'd start putting gold up in the atmosphere because it's reflective. And so that is where Sitchin got that's Sitchin's interpretations of why the gods valued gold so much. AI read it. Oh, there you go. Anyway, so now that isn't explicitly stated anywhere in Sumerian lore that there's this planet and the Anunnaki were trying to heal the planet's atmosphere. Buddy. Oh my God. Bud. Losing his shit. Anyway, it's interesting.
You're talking about the Anunnaki. It's a disturbing subject to Edgar.
It's freaking Edgar out. He hears about it way too much. I'll sit and just talk to him about it, and he doesn't like it. Anyway, let's just to get on from this. There's an interesting correlation because there was remote viewing done by a guy back in the 80s that I've gone over here that the Monroe Institute did, kind of under the instruction of the CIA. And the remote viewing was done from the Navy. Someone from the Navy came and asked for this target, which was the remote view Mars a million years ago. And the Book of Enki didn't come out until the 90s, but this narrative was in Sitchin's other Earth Chronicles books. And he remote viewed these structures supposedly in Cydonia everyone was ranting and raving about. And obviously didn't know what he was remote viewing. And he remote viewed that there was this lost race of very large humans from a comet-like planet who had went and looked for another place to live because there was some kind of a tear in the atmosphere of their planet. So that's what I've memed about before, that CIA document about the pyramids. That's why it's trippy, because this is literally the Book of Enki. Now, Sitchin's idea for Nibiru literally came to him in a dream. So I think Sitchin was a little bit more woo than he let on, and some of this stuff was like, I don't know, he channeled this stuff. I have no idea, but I mean, who knows what the remote viewing's objectively worth, right? But it's an interesting correlation. Maybe Joe McMoneagle, who did remote viewing, was reading the Earth Chronicle series at the time, and this was like subconsciously imprinting onto this target. That's perfectly possible. Anyway, but yeah, and it gets into like using nuclear weapons and all this stuff. Yeah, so they're watching cable, and this dude's channeling satellite. Maybe it was channeling something. Again, the idea that winged globe right on the cylinder seals turned out to be a planet was something that Sitchin came to him in a dream. And when he woke up one morning, a voice to him, he prayed to the Anunnaki, like jokingly. He was told this in one of his lectures. He said before he went to bed, he was working on the 12th planet, which is the big book that came out in 1976. And he said, Anunnaki, help me. There's something I'm missing here in your story. Like, come to me, like, give me an answer. And when he woke up the next morning, some voice came to him, supposedly, this seems serious. It said, there's another planet in the solar system. And then he said, that's what you're talking about in this creation myth, right? And he went through the Enuma Elish, which is a Sumerian story, it's a Mesopotamian story. And he started kind of picking the bits and pieces out of it that he thought were relevant to this narrative. So, Shadows, what's up, man? So, anyway, I know the story well. So well. I know Sitchin's work too well. Too well. But I've sifted through his stuff extensively, and some of the stuff I show up here, like the cylinder seals, are bits and bobs I pulled out of not just his books but his lectures that I thought were legitimately important. Now, he did not know how to cite anything. A lot of legitimate academics shit all over his work all the time because he didn't have any citation for anything. But he found a lot of very interesting cylinder seals, and the themes I think that he found as well were very, very important and interesting and genuinely mysterious. And I, as I've memed over the years, having looked into all this stuff, I think he was kind of on the money, right? Unfortunately, he was just a little bit out there for a lot of people, but I would bet he was on the money. Not right about everything, but anyway, Anunnaki movie, The Lost Book of Enki complete story. But yeah, Galentv, what's this? So we were going to read a couple little things here, I guess, in the meantime.
Before we get to that, would you call yourself, in fact, the global authority on the Anunnaki? The global expert?
Oh, well, that's a good question, actually. Well,
would you go that far?
I wouldn't go that far because I would say an actual global authority on the Anunnaki would be a Sumerologist, so an actually accredited person working maybe with an accredited museum who studied this topic extensively. Like Irving Finkel is a Sumerologist who can read cuneiform texts. He works at the British Museum. He's the one who recently, a couple of years ago, came out and said that we had found the original story for the flood in Noah. And that it actually goes back to a Sumerian story, that it was not originally from the Bible, which a lot of people suspect anyways. Anyway, he would be an authority on the Anunnaki. Now, did we interpret those stories correctly? Now, I would say, in regards to Sitchin's works, I know a lot about Sitchin's theories, and I've watched all of Sitchin's lectures, and there's I know all the interesting points out of the lectures that aren't bullshit. So if I were to debate someone on Sitchin, I could probably sit down and do that quite well. Same with Velikovsky. They're two like woo. Velikovsky's a little bit more grounded, but they were both two woo fucking people. Anyway, I think they both got treated unfairly, personally.
What was Sitchin's favorite color?
That's a good question, actually. Probably red.
Oh my god, I didn't even know that.
Red, because Nibiru was red.
Is that right?
The Red Cross, yeah. The red. That's that was the Templars' Red Cross on their chest. That Maltese cross. They got that out of Mesopotamia. that cross, which was originally depicted as red, and his hypothesis was there was a reason for that, and it's because it came through either the Kuiper belt has a bunch of oxidized iron. He had thought it came through the asteroid belt, which is like the inner solar system, which for anybody in astronomy or astrophysics knows that's like a big woo. But that's why it's red. So,
what was Velikovsky's mother's maiden name?
That's a good question. That I can't tell you. I can tell you what his father's name was.
Facts that have nothing to do with anything. You gotta be on top of this.
I should know, sir. I'm sorry, sir. I truly am not an expert. I truly am not an expert. I am a humble peasant.
Lordy. Well, as we were saying, we were going to look at something else. Now, speaking of the fiction that we're talking about, now we know what we do here. This is never fiction.
That's
not
true.
one bit on Sundays.
No.
Never. Even all the times that we said it was for sure fiction. No, that was a lie. We only discussed the truth here.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, going back a little while ago, there was, this would have been in the fall of I think it was October of 2023. So this was a good, close to 6 months ago, give or take. And there was a fellow, this was after all these leaks had come out. So there was, first we had Grush back in the spring of 2023. And then there was the 4chan leaker, if you remember, that talked about the mobile base or hangar, if you will, that was underneath somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. And then along comes this individual here, who claims that the non-human intelligence is in fact not even extraterrestrial, but they are actually from under the ocean or underwater. That is a group of, I don't know if he actually out and out says, but he says they're a group of highly intelligent cephalopods, or, if you will, squids. Now, we had read through this story briefly, and I think the general consensus was that, okay, this is probably not true. This guy, however, I guess over the last little while has been doubling down on his statements, and that he's been going through. He's stuck pretty close to his claims over the last little bit, and he's been talking, I guess, in other parts of the internet. If you say he's going to Reddit, he's going to 4chan. I don't know if he's been on Twitter, but I guess he's been making some claims. So maybe we'll refresh just to what the original post was, and then we'll get into a little bit of what he's been saying recently.
Let's do it.
I don't know if they would know SpongeBob or not. Oh, the EBO scientist. That was another one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
It got out. Yeah, that was a big one too.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm not monetizing this in any way, shape, or form. My lawyers will come after you if you try to use my information in any monetized videos on platforms such as Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and guarantee mine are better than yours, so don't play that game. Mine is far too valuable to make up this time. Remember to subscribe to the Jim Russell Show, monetize, because we're going over.
That's a nice plug.
Anyway.
God bless.
Anyway, I'm making this centralized post because I am legitimately becoming worried about the mental status of some commenters here. People are even talking about basing their decision to have children on the secrecy behind this and the opportunity toying you for a buck. The information I give you is going to challenge old beliefs and preconceived notions. It will not answer questions like the meaning of life. It won't teach you immortality. You won't become a higher dimensional being. NHI are only gods to Sumerians and Hindu followers. I don't have any answers for you about anything outside of life beyond this planet, higher dimensions, parallel universes, and almighty creator. Nothing. What I can tell you is what is responsible for UAP. My disclosure is a priority right now, what the deadline is, and that's it. If you're looking for answers beyond any of that, don't bother wasting your time reading this. He's got a list of facts here, as I think there's, I mentioned there's like 10. No, there's 11 here. There's a bunch of facts. Well, fact number 1. The NHI are not extraterrestrial. You no doubt are familiar with the concept of evolution. The common ancestor of all land animals have been born in the sea and all that. Correct, right? Did you ever wonder what might have happened if that little dude stayed in the water? You should have, because about half did. Just as intelligent life evolved on land, became humans, intelligent life evolved in the seas and became them.
Them. Oh my.
Them.
Oh my.
Fact number 2. There's way more water contained on this planet than you have been taught. This is where things start to go awry with people. When the Earth was Pangaea, or contained the Pangaea continent, or megacontinent, I guess, or supercontinent, much more of it was underwater than we have been led to believe. As the continent separated violently, not gradually, 2 entire continents were sucked into the Earth, for lack of a better term. I think the term he was looking for was sunk, maybe, into the Earth, but along with a massive portion of the Earth's water, more than half. It was during this cataclysmic event the Earth's moon was formed, and that is notable. Fact number 3. NHI evolved in an environment we do not know what to call. It is not a solid, it is not a liquid, it is not a plasma, and it is not a gas. All of that water was so highly pressurized it became something called ringwoodite. Other elements exist in this state at these areas of the Earth too, most notably mercury, which is, for all intents and purposes, their steel. Fact number 4. NHI are so much more advanced than is because... Is that supposed to be us? That's probably us. That's an IS next to
Yeah, there's less spelling mistakes in here.
than us because of their proximity to the Earth's core. As a young species, they were exposed to a rechargeable power source greater than anything naturally present on land. That's why humans have been playing catch-up. Fact number 5. Technological advancement is exponential. We are not nearly as far behind as the public thinks. Even those that delve into top-secret weapons projects being covered up. Fact number 6. Nuclear weapons have an extremely detrimental effect when deployed on the NHI, meaning we are not pushovers. Fact number 7. Fact 7. The reason for disclosure now is that the lead factions of humanity, the United States military, and the leader of their species have been in conflict ever since learning that we would not just be an extermination to them because of fact number 7. I guess fact 7 and number 7 are distinct. As NHI progress, they severely alter geothermal energy. I actually thought this part was kind of interesting. They severely alter geothermal energy, electromagnetic energy, plate tectonics, and currents. As humanity progresses, we severely poison and heat the seas. Mother Earth can no longer take our squabbling. One of us has to go, and because UAP move the way they do by manipulating magnetic fields of the Earth, neither of us are interstellar travelers yet. Fact number 8. Neither side wants to come to this war, and since shortly after World War II have been searching for a solution that would result in coexistence and in a perfect world, the normal peoples of both species never knowing that the other existed. Shall I continue, or do we have anything that we want to unpack yet?
I think his lawyer should have reread over the post before he posted it. Aside from that, just
Perhaps.
fact check, spell check it.
I have nothing.
Syntax check.
Well, I mean, he didn't even need a lawyer for that. He could have sent this thing through Word.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I just so they're well, we haven't really got the squid part yet. Yeah, supposedly they found an ocean under the Earth and is equal in large in the ocean we see. Yeah, so I remember we read that on stream, Shadows, and I actually went to the paper, And in the paper, what they had found was in rocks, there is an amount of water that can equal another ocean, but it's trapped in rocks. I saw those headlines were everywhere, and we watched.
Really?
Yes, we read those headlines. So that there was like an ancient ocean under the plates or the mantle or something, but they were speculating that the water is trapped in rocks. Yeah, so not actually. Although there are areas where potentially not quite that far down, but yes, but there are potentially little areas where maybe under the ground there could be other like reservoirs of water, maybe like under the ocean, like not like actual oceans under the ocean. But then we maybe we don't know, right? Maybe we don't know. We have no idea. Now he also said that they manipulate the magnetic fields of the Earth. That's not what UAP do. People have speculatively looked at what they might be doing, and to move in the way they're moving, they'd be manipulating. They'd be creating a gravitational field around themselves. They'd have to get themselves out of our bubble. Magnetic fields wouldn't allow you to move at the speeds they're moving at. They would still be splatted all over the back of the craft doing like Mach 30.
That's an inertia problem.
Yeah, so manipulating magnetic fields wouldn't solve that issue. What would solve that issue is if they created a gravitational field around themselves, because then they wouldn't have to deal with inertia.
So that's one thing that he gets into addressing later.
Yeah,
is that not all the UAP seen are supposedly from this group here. That they're the ones that you noted that seem to be manipulating gravity in some sense is it supposedly might be from a different group, because someone asks him about like, well, what about the typical gray aliens, you know? What about them? And he said, look, I don't know about these gray aliens. I only know about these aliens from underwater, which are not really aliens at all. But I think there's some stuff that they address later. But yeah, you're right. I don't think that would be magnetic fields on the Earth, because again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert on this at all. But that sounds like that doesn't account for inertia. There would be.
Well, sorry not to interrupt you, but if they're just fucking around with the magnetic fields, now this is obviously we're not physicists, but one of the crafts move at ridiculous speeds, like almost instantaneous accelerations, up to ridiculous speeds, and there's no breaking of the sound barrier, nothing. So there's no friction. So they're not engaging with our atmosphere in any way, shape, or form. So what's speculated is that they're creating their own little bubble around themselves. So they're manipulating gravity around themselves. That's speculation. So that would then potentially explain some of these inconsistencies, right?
Let's hold on to that thought about gravity, because there's quite the claim that comes later.
Oh my heavens!
There'll be quite the claim that comes later. I don't remember where, but it's quite the claim.
Let's hear it.
So where are we at? Number 9. Some UAP, you see, are the U.S. military's going to or returning from a recon mission to their part of the Earth. Yes, they have human sightings, just as we have UAP sightings. Their societies at large don't know about us. Fact number 10, and this is really fun. Neither of us knows what happened to the portion of the sea that left with our moon. There isn't a question of if there is life there, it's what is it? So I guess that would have been like the impact that would have caused the moon.
So he's saying that this happened when Pangea. So this is effectively what broke Pangea apart.
Yeah,
this is cataclysm.
I think that's what he's implying, is that it was the supercontinent Pangea. Anybody who's not familiar with that, it was at one time on planet Earth, it was thought that all the continents were actually, all the landmass on Earth was connected to each other, and what's known as a supercontinent.
Yes.
And you see
Pangina.
little Pangina,
otherwise known as Pangina.
You can see like parts of it, parts of some of the continents that look like they kind of like connect together. Mostly, you would notice with like South America and Africa, looked
Yeah.
like that they kind of like connect nicely to each other.
They connect when you look at it. They connect into North America. They connect into the Mexico and stuff. Like New York, almost. Like it looks almost like here. Can I pull this up, blow it up bigger? Oh, look. Here, you drag it across. Look, it almost looks like. It looks like Florida sits in between the butt cheeks of Brazil and Africa. Like, it's kind of. You see what I mean? Like see Florida here. Florida is like inserting itself into Pangina. You see?
Man,
Do you see this?
land,
That's crazy.
land mass procreation.
The United States just fucking everybody as per usual. It's just like it keeps going. It just keeps going. Yeah. So anyway, that's that's what things looked like a long time ago. It was one giant supercontinent, and then maybe so. So this isn't in relation to the story per se, but your friend took antibiotics for Pangina. Fuck, man, it can be nasty. Especially if a whole moon hits you, right? There is an area where the Pacific is right now, and some people have referred to it as a wound in the Pacific. I don't know if I'll find in the Pacific. So this is a bit of an enigma.
You mean like where Sargeras stabbed his sword into the heart of the earth?
No, for any World of Warcraft players will laugh at that. You can see though that the Pacific Ocean is much larger than the Atlantic Ocean. Let's get Google fucking Earth up here, and this is an actual interesting Skiz0 thread that no one really talks about, but it is a real meme. But if you look here really carefully, what you're gonna notice. See the depth that the Pacific's at? You can see here the ridge, right? So you can see along how, and obviously this is depth here, right? So it'll tell us the depth actually if I hover over it. It should at least. I might need to get a. Oh motherfucker! Come on now. It should tell me these things. Oh well, whatever. Typically it does. Oh, you know it does. It does. Oopsie, it does. Hold on. There we go. So right now that's at minus 6,000 meters. Oh, minus 300 meters. So this fall off from the ridge is 241 meters down to about 5,000 to 6,000. So you can see this giant area here that almost looks like, look, we're still going around. We're still going around, down and around. And then we come up, see where it stops? Right up by South America. And it runs all the way along South America, all the way up North America. So essentially, this whole area here may have been an impact point a long time ago.
Yeah, that almost looks like it's, if you will, like carved out.
Yes. And so this isn't actually a correct representation of what the Earth actually looks like either. I'll show you an actual... actual shape of the Earth. The Earth is a ellipsoid. So it's an irregularly shaped object. So the Earth is not actually as round as we think it is. It looks more like this, in actual fact. Now gravity, the way water's dispersed, makes it look a little bit different. But it actually kind of looks like this. Right? Like this is not Skiz0. Oh, this is a Skiz0 Sunday. This is not Skiz0. But that's actually what it looks like. So what happened, some people are speculating that what happened was this was an area that got hit by something very large. This may have been the area that our moon impacted and blew off. And if you want to get really crazy with it, because this is fun, the Mariana Trench was 30,000 feet. Yes, yeah. So that's way over here, right, Hendrix? Yeah. If you want to really Skiz0, some people speculate that the Earth was actually at one time larger than it is now. The moon was in actual fact not a byproduct of this, but the moon was a part of this larger planet that sat between Mars and Jupiter. Because if you look through the order of the planets, Earth is a bit of an anomaly, potentially, in that you've got Mercury, which is quite small. Now, Venus is a little bit smaller than us. Mars is quite a bit smaller than us. But the place in which this super planet may have existed is in the asteroid belt. And what might have happened is that something hit this larger planet, took a fucking chunk out of it a long time ago, which we see the remnant of here, and that's what made the asteroid belt. And then this is the remnant of that planet, Earth. And so what was here, that filled this planet out, is in the asteroid belt. And the moon, for however this happened in this theory, made its way back with the Earth. And that's why the moon is so large for the Earth, because at one time the Earth was larger and the moon made more sense. So that was a going theory, hypothesis, probably, some people in astronomy had a long time ago, which I thought was interesting. Theia, I think, was the name of the planet, but one of the interpretations was that the Earth, in fact, was this planet, and that this wound is interesting, and it might suggest that the other alternative explanation is that this was from an impact which then ended up being the moon. Or the moon or some large object crashed into the Earth and did this a long time ago, maybe when Pangea was, the supercontinent was around, and that precipitated this happening, where everything got completely fucked and ripped apart, as you can see along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge here too. There's evidence of some serious trauma on the planet, and in the very distant past, like this would be a long time ago. But this guy, when did this guy suggest Pangea broke up? Like more recently than we thought, is what he said, I think. Right? Or no?
See, he just said that it was, let's see, actually. I don't think they actually said it. They just said it happened much more suddenly.
Yeah, when the Earth was
violently.
Pangea, much more it was underwater. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So at some point, yeah. And anyway, so this is although that's a funny schizo thing, this is a real deal where the Pacific is a giant wound on Earth, and the Earth is missing a chunk of itself, literally, which is what makes it an ellipsoid. And the chunk where a lot of it's missing is in the fucking Pacific. So go figure. Something hit the Earth pretty catastrophically at some point in the distant past, obviously. So. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we got the final fact here, which is fact number 11. When we become aware of life flourishing right under our feet, we changed the way we search for life on other celestial bodies, which is why you're hearing more and more about bacterias and water reserves right here in our own backyard. Those are the answers. You don't need telepathic speaking capabilities or interdimensional beings or containers for consciousness to have the truth be heavy, because the reality is heavy as hell. We share this planet. We have both ducked the planet beyond the point of us coexisting.
I see.
Oh, fucked.
Yeah. He
that didn't click on me. That didn't click to me until he said ducked.
Ducked. Yes.
Life is not nearly as rare as we thought. Interspecies war is probably inevitable in the next 50 years. Those aren't hunches, educated guesses, babbling gibberish, opinions, speculations up for debate, or a teaser for a book, just cold, hard facts. Go ahead and live with your new reality or choose to ignore it. Whatever makes you happiest, because that's the only way this thing will bring some of the peace and love and whatnot some of you seem to be expecting. So, the question would be: is what do we do with this information? And I for one would like to say nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what did we always do with this information, Galentv?
Nothing.
We just swallow it and don't ask any questions. That's
So,
all.
That was the original posting on it. This guy supposedly has been talking to different internet communities and has been doubling down and has stayed pretty consistent with his story. So that was what we originally saw back in October, and I think we were both pretty much on the. I thought it was an interesting take, but I think we're pretty much on the mindset of this probably is not what's happening.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to say, right? I mean, not to listen. People make spelling mistakes when they type things out sometimes.
It's true.
that happens. Even if maybe this guy has this information, is he going to write it out? Maybe he's a couple of glasses of whiskey before he does this to try and get the courage to speak the truth. And, you know, it isn't really written as well as maybe you'd like it to be. But the way in which she's trying to sell this, I don't know. It didn't vibe with me, I guess. But that doesn't mean it's not true either. It's like if I went and wrote a story, right? And it's like, well, it's how do we know? I guess. And it's like, well, he didn't put any evidence forward. He just made a bunch of statements, and I guess what do you do with that? Maybe you just tuck it away.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
He commented on his own thing, and there was some other stuff they talked about. I didn't realize this was actually from the same thread.
Okay.
That somebody commented on.
Do you have these posts?
I linked it to you.
Okay.
And this one, I guess this is from a different user, but this was commented on the same thread, and they said that. So
what's his name?
This username is govcockpick. But the other guy is just a series of like random letters.
Oh, okay.
So this might be a throwaway, but this was what this person said was that the people that read you into this were aligned with the group that read James Cameron into the 80s. That people that read you into this were aligned with the group that read James Cameron into the 80s. Okay, there's a word missing.
Into it in the 80s. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I missed that. This information was never for sale. I didn't know they changed rules. Desperation. The original keepers and brokers would never let anyone in on the basis of wealth alone. You have or had to contribute in some fashion or be deemed worthy. That was another supposed note of this guy, is that he claimed that the guy has thought that the guy is something like a billionaire that made the first post.
Interesting.
He made some off comment that the sum of like some millions of dollars like wasn't that much money.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was like one thought, is that this person may in fact be quite wealthy, but if they're in fact being honest with the whole thing. Anyway, it's ironic that you paid to be read in, and your only hang-up seems to be others repeating your statements to make coin. Either you're downplaying your contribution, perhaps regarding expanding our understanding of magnetic fields, highways, or mapping their system. No idea how a guy who can't suppress his ego enough to refrain from lording coveted information over random common people on the internet could have found himself passing the checks and balances that must have clearly either failed or have been severely changed. This leads me to believe a third party or more is at play, and this is getting exceptionally reckless because the controls have clearly been thrown away and it's uncontainable now. You say by June, I would wager sooner. You know why Grush was obsessed with GeoInt? Think he's put it together yet? Think he will regret it when he does? I do. I just remembered the funniest pitch solution. This will dox me, but fuck it. It was proposed that instead of a hot war between species, we would have a quote-unquote Royal Rumble between evolutionary ancestors. Obviously not the actual ones, but the closest analogous representation based on shared DNA. Juiced-up chimps versus some wild-looking Medusa nautiloid. It was a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, with the punchline saying all this offering did was start another debate on what atmospheric pressure would be agreed on for the cage match. They might share some similarities with us, but squiddies have fucking zero sense of humor. I guess they're not a very funny people.
So this is somebody else that's chimed in on the fan fiction.
Somebody that chimed. I'm going to be honest. I thought this was going to say something different.
Well, I guess
I glanced over it and I thought it was something different. What I thought this post was that they talked about the movie made by James Cameron, I guess that was kind of what they alluded to. There was a movie made by James Cameron called The Abyss, and it was in the 1989, I think, was when it was released, and that had to do with some underwater aliens, if you will, and that they said that supposedly that is like the closest representation to what is going on between humanity and these other underwater aliens. Now, I haven't seen the movie, but I read like the general synopsis of it, and well, I'm gonna spoil it. It's an old movie. There's some Deus Ex Machina at the end of it that makes Ed Harris okay at the end.
Interesting.
And, but the aliens essentially save him, and there's trouble, and then that's all going to with that.
So, but what this post is implying is that this guy knows about all this, and that James Cameron was read into this information in the 80s, which led to that movie being made, and that he somehow came upon it, but the original holders of the information never gave it up for sale. They only read people in when they deemed them worthy of it. And then he started speculating about the war, and who the fuck knows, right? I mean, so much fan fiction and people memeing and LARPing out there. It's so hard to fucking discern what the fuck is truth, especially a guy named Government Cockpick. But who?
Government Cockpick.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. A Gov Cockpick. Governor Cockpick or Government Cockpick. Anyway, hard to fucking discern whether there's anything to this at all. The only thing that we might be able to speculate on is if for whatever reason in some alternate fucking reality this is actually true. Maybe there's a misinterpretation of the UAP, the USO phenomena with this, and that the USO phenomena is underwater, rumors of facilities being underwater, that they may have misinterpreted, or this is the problem with all this information now and with compartmentalization, I imagine, in regards to this subject, in that only a few people would actually have the full story. And if you compartmentalize every single step of the way down, right, what's going to happen is you're going to get fucking telephone game at different intervals. So if you go down like 5 steps from the truth, like you get 70% of the story, you go down from 100 to 70% of the story, you might lose that part where they say, oh yeah, well, yeah, they aren't from Earth, they're just residing on the ocean floor. You might get down to that these objects are from the ocean. They're from Earth. And then you might start to come down and be like, oh, well, what do they look like? And then you get down to 30% and it's like there's underwater objects. And then you hear a little bit about maybe they're from Earth. It's like, man, I would imagine the telephone game is real. So who the fuck knows? This is a problem, though. Who has all the answers?
You imagine just the first up the very top. They're like, we discovered there's some other intelligent species on Earth, but they live underwater, and we're trying to negotiate with them. Don't tell anybody. And then one person, some high up ranking, they tell their significant other. And then they gossip at it at some other spot, and they gossip at it. And then, like, you get some guy that trickles down to on the internet, and they're just like, I was abducted by these squid aliens, purple monkey dishwasher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Purple monkey dishwasher. That's exactly right, though.
That's
exactly right. And it just it spirals. And this happens in ufology with the abduction stuff, too, where it's like, oh, the Lyrans took me. They took me to their cat world, and they showed me their cat things, and it's like, oh my god, yes, they've taken me there too. You were there with me in the dream. Oh my god. It's like, oh, maybe anyone who's ever fucking seen like UFO conferences and stuff, like, fuck, man.
There's another part that we should look at too regarding this guy's claim about disclosure. So this was the second link that I posted to you.
Okay.
This is a little Reddit conversation that the guy had. So that was the guy's account, was just an appearance of a bunch of random letters connected to each other. And he says that they're asking about disclosure, who's going to, who's the one that's going to disclose? And he says that it's not going to be Biden that is actually going to make the announcement. It's a very strong possibility it comes from Obama. Disclosure is coming in June.
Was this a recent post that he made?
I don't actually know. I couldn't find the source on just the recent post, but this was one that I found in
It said
when I was
6
initially reading
months ago. So where was he? Hold on. We pulled up the Reddit post. This was 6 months ago. Submitted 6 months ago. So 6 months ago would have been
It would have put it around October.
right. So then if this is around the same time, then they're saying this June. I guess maybe is what they're getting at.
Yeah,
here. Okay.
this June is the one that they're saying is going to happen. He says, "What?" Then there's a comment that says, "Wow, it's difficult to articulate what it momentarily felt like when I read disclosures coming in June. Definitely an odd feeling: excitement, curiosity, fear. I guess it's mostly exciting to even entertain the idea that we might soon be living in a vastly different world post-disclosure." I gotta read this like Neil. "It's hard to imagine life continuing as if today, after receiving such disclosure. Maybe that's what we need as a species to get out of this dark era of divisiveness. Looking forward to June. Cheers."
Mention that is Neil. Fuck.
Just so then he says, "Just know that when it happens, remain calm. It's going to feel very scary, as people will be told to return to their homes immediately, and every device you have will be screaming alarms at you. They will want everyone off the streets. You'll be given basically a 3-hour window to return home, or for the homeless to find shelter. Just comply. Deadly force will be authorized for non-compliance." So that is what the claim is.
So they're going to completely collapse the economy to tell everybody that we're about to go to war with fucking squid people.
Well, that's the claim is that I've read. Now I don't have any sources. These are just like things that I read here and there. So I don't have any like pictures to share with these. But that was the claim. Why they chose Obama for it is because they said, well, they're not going to choose Biden. And they're not going to choose Trump. And then you go, when was the most trusted major political figure that they would have had in the United States over the last, little while to be alive? And you probably go, but that's most likely Obama. So
I would have to agree.
It makes sense.
It
makes
agree,
sense
yeah.
that he's probably the better orator of any of the major political figures right now.
He's trusted by the people. He's also, not to contribute to this Skiz0 shit, but as we should, I guess. Why not? It's Skiz0 Sunday. He has been meeting with heads of state for some time. He's been meeting with the royalty in Europe more recently. He's been seen with a couple different royal families. He's been meeting with all of them individually, which people thought was very strange. So a lot of people suspect that he is kind of the puppet president behind Biden, which would probably make sense, honestly. Yeah, like actual non-Skiz0, like that would make sense personally. You're telling me how to joke, yeah. So yeah. Somebody tells me June will come and go, nothing as usual. I would bet that, Hendrix. If we're gonna place bets, yeah.
I mean, we have a week from Monday to get through first.
That's true. Actually, we got the eclipse. Yeah.
And then it'll be. They're just setting it up for when nothing happens on the eclipse.
Yeah.
Then we have. Yeah, I saw that CERN was firing up the Hadron Collider, but maybe we will talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked, actually. Yeah. But yeah, he did. He met with the king in the UK. He met with the king other places. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Obama is just I wouldn't trust the guy, at all.
Beezy.
Yeah, I don't.
Beezy's going to be like, my fellow Americans and peoples of Earth, we are not alone on this planet, but me, Malia, but I can't remember his kid's names. I actually can't remember his wife. Michelle, Malia. Yeah, I can't remember his other kid's name. And Bo will be safely stored in the presidential bunker under the White House, as Joe Biden has died. That is why I'm giving you this news.
Yeah, they'll
Whereas if they
unplug Joe at that point. Yeah.
whereas if they have Biden go do it, he'll just be like, "What am I supposed to tell these people? Aliens under the water? Get the fuck out of here! There's no such thing as aliens." And then Trump would go like, "You see, I told you all that there were aliens. Nobody wanted to listen to me, but I'm going to bring you the best news. It would be the greatest news, and it's tremendously going to change the world."
Jesus fuck.
Okay, and I met with the aliens personally. They were all just so impressed with me, and they said that I did the best job running America that they had ever seen. And
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to let that guy make a fucking announcement like that. Especially if you're puppeting the United States anyway, right? They wouldn't. That's why they don't want Trump doing that. The devil comet will be making a pass around April 21st, but some more set theories the eclipse may be able to see the comet during the eclipse. Interesting.
Oh yeah, I remember reading that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would supposedly be. There's another thing that maybe we can talk about after we're done doing this part, but I don't know how much there is there with it. But if you remember, I don't know if did you read anything about the quote unquote the prophecy in 2015 or 2017? Sorry, some event was supposed to happen in 2017 in September, I think, and the claim is that some guy was looking around on like Google Skies or something, and they happened across some anomaly that they found in the sky, and they found out that it was blocked out by Google Sky. And when they were able to find what the anomaly looked like, it in fact did look like Pepe the Frog as like a star constellation, at which then people started to go, oh, what's going on? And then they try to line up some events anyway. Something was supposed to happen sometime in 2017 in September. I can't remember the exact day, but people are bringing up that other event that was supposed to happen in 2017, and they're saying that this is exactly like some number of days and months and years since that date was supposed to happen, and then that means something's going to happen on the 8th. But I can't remember exactly what it was. I'd have to find the literature on it, if you will.
Interesting. Yeah, will be kind of interesting to dig into. But, here's the devil comet with the horns. See, look there. See the tail is split. Looks like it is almost like wings as well. Comets. So when they're coming towards the sun, the solar winds blow the comet back, and it creates this illusion at times of not just the horn. You could interpret it as horns. Wings might be another way of interpreting it. So yeah, apparently visible now, but I think it was April 21st will be closest pass. Interesting, very interesting. Satan as well, right? The devil, the horned devil, the red-horned devil, right? That we have, that's kind of made its way through, right? The devil comet, right? And then we have the devil. What is the devil look? No, where's Prada? Get the fuck the devil.
You mean Lucifer?
Lucifer's
telescope?
Yes.
Lucifer.
Yeah, exactly.
Telescope?
That's exactly it. The Lucifer acronym on the telescope that the Vatican has. It's actually the infrared attachment is named Lucifer, which is even more fucking interesting, really. But you can see this is a depiction for the devil. But now the devil is absolutely inspired from Typhon, which is this Greek monstrosity, this Greek monster. Here, right there. This great red beast with this snake-like tail and these great wings and this beast-like head. He was blood red. Baphomet is cooler. Yeah, Baphomet is a bastardization. This is the OG. That's the actual art on the side of the vase, but That's Zeus fighting Typhon with his thunderbolts. He shot him out of the sky. But this is the idea that if we have a planet in our solar system that's kind of on a comet-like trajectory, you could imagine what the Devil Comet looks like with these great, wings or horns. You can imagine what this planet might look like would be even larger, right? Many magnitudes larger. So now whether it comes close enough that we actually interact with it, that's the real question, I guess. But yeah, anyway, it's interesting. Interesting little aside there, of course.
I found something about the Reddit user's name that it was appeared to be random letters put together. That this one now I don't have a picture for it, but supposedly this one guy is saying that is the name of Gematria for CIA. Now I don't know what that means. The guy says, I believe he's telling us some truths, but I think he wants us to read between the lines. He seems to be quite spiritual. He said maybe the treaty gets extended, but look at the description of the creatures. They don't sound like cephalopods to me. They sound like Crowley's demon. Human central nervous system covered in translucent skin.
Lamb.
That's literally the sketch we have all seen.
Yes.
They're demons, and or OP is adamant they want to kill us. I really think he's just trying to whistleblow without truly whistleblowing. They're demons, and we will see them in June, and of course Obama will be the one to tell the world. So that's one thing that was I remember we were talking about that they were squids, but supposedly I don't think there's anything that's ever been just out and out stated that they were like cephalopods.
Yeah.
I think there was like allusions to it or like references that they would be something like that, but I don't think there's ever out and out stated that would be cephalopods. But the statement also is that I remember reading was that supposedly the treaty ends in like 2027 between us and the underwater intelligence.
Is this the Grotto Treaty?
I don't know.
Sounds like
but then that sound is under false pretenses because I don't. Sure enough, do not know if this is in fact the Creative Treaty. Nicely done, though. And that they're going to disclose it now because they don't think they're going to be able to come to an agreement, and they're going to gear up people getting ready to go to war underwater.
Yeah, I mean, like the claims that there may be some kind of an announcement made by Obama, that piqued my interest a little bit because, again, he's been cited speaking to a lot of heads of state, a lot of royalty. He's been doing like this weird press tour almost, and I don't think he had a book that came out. So it was like, what's he doing? Why is he going around and making all these announcements? And again, Biden would still be president at that time, so not to get us all riled up and excited that something might actually be said. But yeah, I mean, I listen. I think most of us who've been looking at this for a long time probably have a pretty good idea of what we might be dealing with here. To be completely honest, that I don't think personally, I would not bet on squids. I would be betting on the classic this here, right? The classic kind of gray-looking alien depiction is what I would bet that these visitors look like. That might be some kind of obfuscation or bullshit or telephone game, but I would wager that if I were to bet what we're dealing with, it's this. Maybe not Lamb in particular, but although he's a meme. But it looks like after a new WoW expansion. Yeah, fuck, man. Also, that'd be Betty and Barty Hill doc, a movie that will be coming out soon. Maybe this is tied to that. Yes,
that's right. He does. That's right. He does have that.
And he did. What did he do recently? He did the produced the other movie where there's like some kind of an attack in the United States. But yeah. Well, and I mean that was for Obama. He promoting that too because that was like a really big deal back then, because obviously tensions were high with like interracial couples and whatnot, and they were coming out of the civil rights movement, and they were prominent, like they were up front and center. Betty and Barney, who were, you know, Betty was black and Betty was white, Barney was black. So, you know, there's probably a bit of that going on too, where that's like one of the big daddies of ufology, really, stories. Like that's and it's an abduction story, which is even trippier, which is like even more wooey. But yeah, so maybe that's exactly what he's gonna do. I don't see them ever personally. If I were to bet, I would love to be wrong. I would love to lose on this, right? But my bet would be that they never say anything really, and that all we're given are like tiny spoonfuls, like just like barely a mouthful at a time, right? That so that we can swallow it properly. But I don't think we're ever gonna get like a truth like that, unless the only reason I could see why they might do it is if they know something's about to happen, and either they've been instructed to do so by the beings in exchange for some kind of information in regards to what's going to happen, right? They say, well, we'll tell you about how to survive this, or what to do in regards to this thing that's going to happen, but you got to tell the people first, because otherwise you're just going to take this to the bank and leave everybody high and dry. So you tell everybody about the reality of this phenomena, we'll give you answers. So maybe there's a bargaining going on, which is why they're doing it.
Or maybe we're gearing up to go to war
with the squids.
They need people, they need bodies. Listen, fellow people of Earth, we are going to go to war with the cephalopods. They live under the water. Yeah. You will be trained in underwater combat and in tunnel combat. I will not be joining you, though. I will simply be watching from the sidelines. This is your battle.
If they're actually stuck in the water, I think that's probably GG, though. When you really think about it, it's like just think about how easily we can start pouring stuff like in areas where they live in the water. There's one thing that humans do best. It's pollute. Yeah. It's pollute the shit out of things. It's going to a place that's beautiful and then just take a shit on it, just ruin it, right? We're so good at just moving in and destroying something, right? You send Jim, Bob, Ricky, Julian, you send those boys down fucking wherever they're set up shop. You get them a couple cases of beer, fucking couple gallons of fucking couple drums of oil, right? Some paint thinner. You just dump it over the side, and those cephalopods would be dead in a week.
I think the conflict is who can do what faster. Can we pollute the water and their environment faster, or can they like level all the cities through like earthquakes? Because I think that was what was implied is that they use like some kind of tectonic. They use like energy or they can supposedly manipulate like tectonic plates that would cause like earthquakes and whatnot.
Did they do fucking Fukushima?
Well, that's just the other part. Did they do Fukushima? Are they the ones doing all these earthquakes in Haiti?
They better fucking not have done that. That would have fucking been ridiculous. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, unless another group's gonna do it, they're just telling them to point their asses in the air. Let the aliens take their pick. Yeah, that's essentially what's happened already. Maybe. Rabbit. Yeah. Yeah, it was a weapon being developed to take out the impending invaders and got a perfected design to be harmless to us. Yeah. You sit down, place head between knees, kiss your ass goodbye. Yeah, the instructions given us word about the upcoming invasion. Well, so I mean, you know, I've gone over this about the whole coof, the fucking coof bug that went around there. I mean, again, like in a perfect world, are we gonna take anything from remote viewing to the bank? Fuck no. In an ideal situation, but like if we have literally nothing, then maybe we should take a second look at some of the data. But I know that John Vivanco did do a remote viewing of the virus, and with his team, who I know of at least one, maybe two people involved with his team. And anyway, what they got was that the whole coof was unleashed on the world in anticipation of an unstoppable natural event by some kind of global elite. And that they did it to try and get ahead of whatever the fuck is coming. And they didn't really elaborate too much on that. Maybe to implement some kind of control system, get people acclimated to being under lockdowns. We know that climate lockdowns are a part of the whole meme, right? With the WEF narrative, right? In the WHO, where it's a part of the whole bullshit. So maybe that's something to do with it. I know from John that they had remote viewed what this unstoppable natural event is. It's some kind of atmospheric effect. Some kind of atmospheric cataclysm, something affecting the atmosphere of the Earth catastrophically, and a mass casualty event. What's the word again? Galentv. There's a term.
Cataclysm?
No, not EBE. An ELE, Hendrix. Yes, that movie. What's the fucking movie called? Deep Impact. Extinction level event.
Extinction level event.
It's effectively for us an extinction level event is what John got. An extinction level event that impacts the atmosphere in some way that they know or they anticipate is coming at some point they don't know about for sure. That was what the remote viewing said. Then they released the virus. They planned to release the virus for a while, but they chose that time and place because they knew that this was a set amount of time out from when they thought this might be happening. Now, what's interesting about that, and if for whatever reason that's actually something real that they actually got, and it wasn't just some fan fiction John wrote up to try and get clicks on his fucking YouTube videos, which is perfectly a possibility. There is other information that's been out in the world that's pointed towards this. I posted it before. We've gone over it here before, which a guy from Project Camelot, I think his name is Bill Ryan, heard from some high-level Masonic dude in London, in the financial district in London, who's ex-military, and he had sat in on a meeting with a bunch of very prominent people back in the early 2000s, and they were talking about doing this back then, where they needed some kind of global conflict. Essentially what they needed to get a tighter grip back on the world again, because they were anticipating their grip was going to loosen. So what they were doing here is they were planning at this event, this meeting, they were planning out how they were going to get the world back under control. And one of the ways they were planning on doing that was to reduce the population, because as the population increases, it becomes harder and harder to kind of keep people under your thumb. So they needed some kind of global conflict, which maybe resulted in nukes flying around. The other thing that they talked about, which is very interesting, and this video was posted back in 2010, maybe 2008, I can't remember, but this event happened in like 2004, 2005, and he'd been talking to this gentleman ever since then. And anyway, they were talking about how China was going to catch a cold, and that this virus was going to originate out of China, spread around the world, and it was going to help collapse the global economy. And at the end of all of this, because obviously Bill from, I think his name is Bill from Project Camelot, was asking this guy, well, like, why are they doing this? So, like, why do they want to jeopardize all of humanity, start a new massive nuclear exchange, unleash a virus that could go rogue and kill everybody? Like, what's the point? Like, things were running pretty well. Like, why jeopardize everything? And he said he didn't know that it wasn't brought up in the meeting per se, but then after the fact, this gentleman, after doing his own digging, came to the conclusion, had heard from other people that they're anticipating some kind of serious cataclysm in the future. And that's why they're trying to get everybody under control, because they want to stay on top of the heap when this happens. So hence why reducing the population, because if there's too many people and things are too chaotic, it's like they're gonna lose control. And we've seen that happen. Just aside, conspiracy crazy talk aside, like you definitely see that narrative has been completely lost. The mainstream media has completely lost the narrative thanks to media online for a lot of people. And so we've already seen that happen. So what's one of the ways you try and if they can even do it at this point, but one of the ways is, well, get the population down. Too many people out innovating, they just maybe lost control. Anyway, so that was another conspiracy theory that was floated around back again in like 2008, 2010. And at the time, no one thought anything of it, but retroactively going back through, you're like, oh shit, that's very interesting, right? Because that was I don't like, you know, obviously we digest a lot of Skiz0 shit here. That one stuck with me. Now I did remember hearing about it, but I didn't like go through the entire video. I used to watch Project Camelot's videos all the time because back in the early days of YouTube, they were like kind of the only people going around and interviewing a lot of like kind of, not fringe people, but like people that you wouldn't really hear from, like Norman Berggren, who wrote Ringmakers of Saturn, right? So highly accredited dude, never got involved with ufology, just was pretty convicted that he saw what looked like crafts in the rings of Saturn from the Voyager missions. And he was convinced that he saw other friends of his who were at NASA. This guy's like PhD level engineer, brilliant guy. They were also convinced that it looked like these were objects. Anyway, they had interviewed him. They got like a bunch of cool people on the show. So after this had happened, I saw someone had tagged this post and said, oh my God, Project Camelot called this out like a decade ago. And it's very interesting in that, again, now did John's remote viewing video, did John just follow this narrative? I don't know. Or it's one of the, it's like the remote viewing of Mars, right? Where this gentleman gets Sitchin's whole story essentially, but he's in an isolation take at the Monroe Institute under, you know, pretty tight scientific conditions. You know, my brain right now. Anyway, he's in a lab setting. Let's say that he was in a lab setting. So again, just coincidence. Maybe it was just reading the book, or did he actually get onto some kind of narrative? Now, how do those two things correlate? They correlate a little bit, actually, because in Sitchin's narrative, that planet causes a cataclysm. It causes a massive atmospheric disturbance. We have many stories in the past that talk about this happening, giant firestorms happening. These coincide with the appearance of a very large comet all over the world. All over the world. So, you know, and I don't know how we even got to this point, talking about
everything goes back to Nibiru.
Everything. Well, but I mean, well, that's kind of my meme, I guess, in that I think definitely there's that is something from ancient history we haven't reckoned with, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case either. But I guess we're talking about what's going to happen, people anticipating some kind of cataclysm at some point in the future. There being some kind of a drive or a reason for disclosure even. Now, you have to think for a second though. Right. And this is one of my points here when I talk with these things. So this is one of the things I try to get to with this point, in that definitely there are bits and pieces of our ancient history that we have not digested properly, that we're still in the process of even digging up. So there's a lot about our world and our history we don't know because we're just climbing out of the fucking cradle. So if you were to encounter visitors from somewhere else who maybe had been hanging around here for a long time and have a much deeper understanding of Earth and its history and of science, physics, astronomy, etc., and you were to have a meeting with these beings, let's say you sat down with them, maybe they landed on a dry lake bed and they got out and had a conversation with you for an hour. What are they going to talk to you about? What are they going to say to you? What's going to come up in conversation, right? Well, what will be a really interesting piece of information to know, something that might blindside us, is, oh, and guys, by the way, you're not aware of this yet, but every couple X, Y, and Z thousand years, however long, the Earth gets subjected to a giant cataclysm and you all almost die. Oh, like it's those little pieces. It's if you're dealing with a species that has like this broader window of time that they've been subjected to, right? Let's say they've been on Earth for 10,000 years, just fucking around. They've maybe seen one of these cycles, maybe they've seen two of them, however long the cycle is. Maybe that's something that they mentioned to the government, right? Maybe that's something that they had passed along as an interesting little tidbit. Now, if that's the case, then the phenomena is intricately linked to catastrophism, right? Ufology. And now what do you get in a lot of these abduction cases? I shouldn't say a lot, but there's enough of them that it becomes a little bit suspicious, in that in a lot of these, I gotta keep saying a lot, sorry, it's not in a lot of them, but there's a good amount of them that talk about, the abductees I should say, being shown some kind of future Earth after a cataclysm, or people that they should, or being encouraged to prepare for some kind of catastrophe, right? That they should go and do this, they should go and do this, they should go train, because they should anticipate things going awry in the future. What do they know? What don't we know, right? Is this related to a timetable, right? Is there a timetable here? Is that why there's a timetable for disclosure? Maybe, right? Is that why? And these dates have been thrown around by people, which, again, I don't know where they came up with these dates. I don't know what these dates objectively mean. 2027 was a date that's been thrown around by more than a couple people. Lou Elizondo threw that date around. John Ramirez is another guy who was in the CIA, supposedly heard some stuff, threw that date around. I don't know if anyone knows any of these fucking dates, but this just appears everywhere in the woo, I should say. It's in the abduction phenomena, it's in the remote viewing, it's in conspiracy theories. The theme is that aliens, catastrophe, they're kind of interlinked together. And you keep hearing this. And then ancient history too, actually, and the gods, metaphysical beings talking to people, warning them, right? The Ojibwa from Northern Ontario, right? This is Thor Conway's work. Graham Hancock had featured an excerpt of it. But the Ojibwa talked about this object coming, this star, and passing by the Earth and causing a giant firestorm and burning everything to the ground. And we'll probably bet that happened about 12,000 years ago, because that's when the black mat layers all over North America, right? So I would, now maybe not, maybe that was a worse one. We don't really fucking know. But the Great Spirit warned the people that it was coming. And only the medicine men and what was the other term? The shamans had warned the people to prepare for the return of this. So it was the woo people out of their culture that told everybody, something's talking to us and telling us to like get ready for this thing to happen. And in the story, not many people listened. Only the people that listened to them went down and rolled in the bog at the right time. So when the firestorm washed over everything, they were down in an area where they survived it. But everyone else died. And that information came from these woo people, right? This is part of one of Graham's big points, really, in his book. And a lot of people have their contentions with Graham and, you know, his work and but ultimately what he's trying to bring up here is that we should learn from history in these stories. And I think that's a really, really good point, because in many of these narratives, people ended up dying from their hubris, essentially, thinking that, and again, this story is probably thousands of years old, right? Oral story, telephone game, who the fuck knows, right? But I find it an interesting correlation that a giant firestorm caused by a giant comet comes from these people. And then you find that all over the world as well. But anyway, it came from woo people. So in regards to this stuff, right? Although we're so much more based now, so much more logical, right? We rely on science and as we should really rely on science to try and ground us and try and give us better answers for things. We don't know everything. And to write off this phenomena completely, I think, is extremely naive, honestly. But anyway, sorry. We'll fucking keep going on Galentv with something more lighthearted. But what do you think of all that, Galentv? What do you think of that whole
you mentioned that the medicine men and the shamans were the ones to do did the druids, in fact, talk about this either? Or were they just too busy shapeshifting into cats and bears to give any kind of bother? That's
probably, yeah. Well, they're all perverts, right? The druids are all perverts. Massive perverts, yeah. Sorry, the seers and the medicine men, but shaman, seer, same thing, right? All the same thing. But that's kind of a good point. It's kind of a good meme, because a lot of people, right, in academia take it like that, where they're like, oh, haha, like, fair enough, though, right? Because these were people that worshipped the wind and the water, and they worshipped the sun, and right, kind of like today people worship this magical wizard that turned water into wine and then rose out of a cave, and that's not fucking objectively kind of crazy. And then we all go to church and we symbolically eat his body and drank his blood. There's nothing wrong with that. You savages worshiping the wind. Yes, give me a swig of Jesus' blood. Oh, yes, sire. I'll take a piece of his body and I'll eat it. Yes. To honor him, I will digest him. Yes. He is risen. We've changed so much.
There's a new better religion though.
Oh, is there? Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, it's the one where they worship science.
Oh, yeah.
The scientism.
Yeah, that one's particularly dangerous.
Yeah. That one could be a little bit dangerous.
How do you? Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, well, but this is sorry. Continue.
We mean scientism. We don't mean Scientology. We mean scientism is like the act of kind of treating the scientific method as the end all be all, as like a deity in of itself. Whether consciously thinking about that or consciously thinking about it like that, but kind of treating that's why I always thought the phrase that trust the science was always kind of a weird phrase. Because you'd say that based on the scientific method is like the whole point of the scientific method is to not just trust it, it's to prove it.
Yeah, we're not into belief here. But that's the kind of rhetoric that is revealing as to like who's got control of this, right? And that's why it's so problematic, right? But people are unable to reason through that, right? And no,
because they trusted it.
They have faith in it. They just have faith in it. They don't understand it. They don't understand the scientific method. They don't understand deductive reasoning. They don't understand any of these concepts, right? They don't understand that's not how it works, right? And it's part and parcel why it's so problematic, and it's part and parcel how scientism's come to be what it is, where people worship scientists, right, and their data. And man, you know what drives me nuts more than anything? I see this like all the fucking time. But people, not just people, but like articles referencing studies where it's like, oh, people who fast are 30 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's. It's like, what? It's like, oh, you hear that fasting is like fucking gives you Alzheimer's? It's like what?
That's not what it said. When they say 30% more, you go like, well, what? 30% more than what would be like the baseline for that, and you don't know what that means, so that 30% becomes a meaningless number, right? The only thing you get from it is that 30% is like a big increase over what the norm would be. But suppose like the norm is like you've got like 1/100% of a chance to develop Alzheimer's, so you get your 30% more likely. And then that ends up being, I don't want to do the math for that, but we'll say like 0.1% or something.
But we'll kind of logic through this a little bit, just to kind of break. This isn't exact. That was a real headline that fasting like causes heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's. That was now this isn't actually what happened with the breakdown, but I'll just give an analogy, I guess, or a kind of a fictional scenario as to what happens sometimes, where you'll go and you'll instead of reading the headline or even the article, you'll go read the paper. And what you can do when you get a hold of papers, when they actually allow you to see them and display them, you can go down to the bottom, right? Or you can find an abstract of their thesis, or the conclusion obviously is the best part, where you get the TLDR on the paper, and the headline is fasting leads to Alzheimer's, right? You read the actual conclusion on the bottom of the paper, and it says people who fast may be more likely to develop Alzheimer's because of XYZ, right? Maybe, might be, could be. There's no definitive language in there at all, right? They've taken all of that all of the kind of questioning, but they made it far more convictive because that sells better, right? So
it's clickbait.
Yeah, and the other problem with it too is that you could say, for instance, fasting is linked to least developmental issues or heart attacks, etc. But then you look in the actual paper and they say things like, well, yeah, people who fast aren't eating as much nutrition. If you don't have as much nutrition, you're missing out on meals. You're going to be micronutritionally deficient. If you're more micronutritionally deficient, then you're more likely to develop problems, right? People who are more micronutritionally deficient are more likely to develop problems. Therefore, if you're fasting, more than likely you're going to be micronutritionally deficient. So you're going to develop problems, right? Now, if you take a multivitamin, doesn't matter. You're okay. So it's like, okay, hold on. Like, we got to think for a second here. It's like, they're not actually thinking. It's like, so even the paper itself, which put forward by science, right? A study. It's like what? So that headline doesn't really make a lot, because I mean, the first thing you would do now, again, maybe the first thing everyone does in fasting, but is go and take a fucking multivitamin or seek health advice from someone who's actually qualified. But it's like just some lapse in like logic, really, where it's like, okay, but like, so that just because you're not eating as much food, but then you could eat more micronutritionally dense food at your meals, and then that could completely get rid of the problem, right? And it's like, but all people hear is a headline where it's like, this is my point, all people will hear is a headline that fasting causes Alzheimer's, and they're like, oh my god, fasting did you hear like, no one's actually going into the actual paper and understanding what the fuck is being said. It's not that you don't need to be, in most cases you don't, especially now with ChatGPT, you don't necessarily need to be an expert in the field to understand what's conveyed here, right? You can go, and the job of people writing the paper is to put either in the first part of the paper when they're putting their thesis in, or at the bottom part when they come to the conclusion, is to tie things together and give a general idea of what happened, and then there you can usually get what you really need to hear. But anyway, sorry. And that plays into scientism a little bit, where people like worship these scientists. They're like, oh my god, like, I was fasting like for the last 3 years, and like I started forgetting like to put peanut butter in my shake, and I was like, it all makes sense now. Like, I have fucking Alzheimer's because I was fasting. It's like no. Like, it's like, thank you so much. It's like, no, that's not fucking what was said. That's not what's happening. It's like, man, they're just appealing to this authority instead of actually going through themselves and digesting the information. And it's in part, I think, due to the media too. But anyway, so shut the fuck up about that. But in regards to scientism, that shit frustrates me, because I'm not a fucking scientist. I do philosophy, right? I'm not fucking in science. I don't do experiments. We don't do experiments, Galentv. We just fucking talk about
No, we don't.
crazy shit.
No, we make a point that is pretty valid, and then we'll go and discredit it by saying, like, also, I heard that they found that there was somebody that was talking to these citizens that lived on the moon, and they said that, you know what, your planet's got it all backwards. See, the gravity is actually what's trying to push you away from the Earth. It's not what's bringing you into the Earth. It's what's trying to push you away from the Earth. And that you're being stuck to the Earth is because that's just where you want to live there. And then you go, oh, I see now. You see what I said? Just said it has no meaning. Yeah, if you didn't follow what I said, that was the whole point.
Yeah,
that it was, but
that's a good that's in listening. That's in good listening, and also in critical thinking, which is what philosophy should really. That's what philosophy brings, to critical thinking, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to think critically on things, but sometimes schizo crazy things. Welcome me, by the way. Welcome, man. Yeah, that's what philosophy does, right? That's why we're not doing fucking thought experiments. There you go.
On a back to our NHI fella here, I found a couple more things that they said. So supposedly the guy has slowly been outing himself, and he says that if he's not making the stuff up, he says that supposedly the guy lives somewhere in Brentwood, California. He's around the millennial age range. He's extremely wealthy, likely a billionaire. This isn't in any of the stuff they sent you. This is just something I happened across here.
Speculation.
Yeah, there's probably billionaire levels if $1 million isn't considered good money to them, and that the guy made money through Lockheed Martin, or through Lockheed anyway.
Oh, okay. He said this himself? Has he mentioned this?
I haven't found a source on it, but supposedly that's what the guy has said. That is where he made his money, through Lockheed.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you finish your thought, because mine's going to segue just a little bit.
Well, no, you don't go. I literally wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to say, like, maybe that's why he had to come into this knowledge, just because he's working in the military-industrial complex, and yeah.
Well, he's also said that supposedly there will be a paper that will come out in the near future. So he made this claim, I guess, maybe back in October, but he said that it'll be around the time of May or June that will supposedly disprove the theory of gravity. So I linked the article to you that I found on it, and this actually came out yesterday. And this is from Columbia University, and it says, from theory to reality, graviton-like particles found in quantum experiments. So...
so gravitons... We need drunk physics in here, probably, but...
Yeah, we need a proper physicist in here.
But we're not qualified for this level of fucking thought, but... gravitons were proposed as a particle dedicated to carrying gravity. If it existed, a graviton should be massless and travel at the speed of light. Except that so far gravitons had never been observed in space. So there was this idea that gravitons were a thing. But for the most part, I think people just thought it was horseshit. So yeah, interesting. Okay, sorry, we'll continue with this. Yeah.
This is the results continue. The legacy of Lake Columbia professor Aaron Pinskuk. I can't pronounce that. I think that's... No, I'm not going to try. Are a step toward a better understanding of gravity. Anyway, this was an article that was linked because somebody said that, oh, that's funny that they said there was a paper coming out, because I just happened across this, like, yesterday when I was looking at this. And he said that, so this breaks down on, like, what they found and whatnot. I didn't really read it. And I did exactly what we were talking about that one shouldn't do, and that is read the article. I looked at the title and went, "Okay, we'll talk about it on the stream." And exactly what we said that we shouldn't do.
Yeah, just reading headlines.
Yeah, but let's see what it says. So the quantum metric and its predictions. So the team discovered particle in a type of condensed matter called a fractional quantum Hall effect, FQHE liquid. FH or fractional quantum Hall effect liquids are a system of strongly interacting electrons that occur in two dimensions at a high magnetic fields and low temperatures. They can be theoretically described using quantum geometry, merging mathematical concepts that apply to the minute physical distances at which quantum mechanics influences physical phenomena. And it says electrons in the FQHE are subject to what's known as quantum metric that had been predicted to give rise to CGMs in response to light. However, in a decade since the quantum metric theory was first proposed for FQHEs, limited experimental techniques existed to test its predictions. And goes on, so this says the legacy of the guy, the pioneering of quantum research. We don't need to worry about that. The innovation of the techniques, the internal collaboration in quantum geometry. We don't need to worry about theoretical implications in future directions. So this might be good to talk about. This is the last little section of it. So the CGMs share those characteristics with gravitons, a still undiscovered particle predicted to play a critical role in gravity. Both CGMs and gravitons are the result of quantized metric fluctuations, explained Liu, in which the fabric of space-time is randomly pulled and stretched in different directions. The theory behind the team's results can therefore potentially connect two subfields of physics: high-energy physics, which operates across the largest scales of the universe, and condensed matter physics, which studies materials and the atomic and electronic interactions that give them their unique properties. In future work, Liu said the polarized light technique should be straightforward to apply to FQHE liquids at higher energy levels than they explored in the current paper. It should also apply to the additional types of quantum systems where quantum geometry predicts unique properties from collected particles such as superconductors. For a long time, there was this mystery about how wavelength collect collective modes. I'm going to read this like David Children, like CGMs could be probed in experiments. We provide experimental evidence that suggests quantum geometry predictions, said Lou. I think Aaron would be very proud to see this extension of his techniques and new understanding of a system he had studied for a long time.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, very interesting. Again, is that some? I mean, all right. So it's similar graviton light particles found in quantum experiments. So this is something though that this guy had mentioned. This fucking Skiz0 guy.
Yep, he had said that supposedly there would be a paper that will be published in the near future from now. By that, supposedly within the next few months, that will disprove gravity as we understand it.
Maybe that's beginning to be a step in that direction. I mean, if we were to understand or find something that it proves gravitons that may completely shift everything on its head, because I know those theories around gravitons don't really make a lot of people were kind of in disagreement with them, I believe, in the physics community. It's not like an accepted thing. Like it was speculated back in like the 80s, I think. But it's interesting actually that some contactee people had talked about stuff like this. I can't remember exactly what it is, but they had implied that this is how things actually work. So that'd be kind of crazy if, but then not really surprising because back in the 80s, again, this was like one of the theories, I guess, but not honed enough, maybe, right? Maybe it's a little more complicated than what we think, but here we are, maybe in the quantum realm figuring this out now. But that's very interesting, though, that he'd said that, right? And that maybe this guy actually does have inside knowledge. Listen, I mean, I'm trying to think who else has made predictions, though. There haven't been any short-term predictions made, though, aside from this that I've heard. 2027 is the one that I've heard more recently, that by 2027, something's going to happen that's going to shift everything on its head in regards to ufology. So, that's, I guess we just have to wait and see, Galentv. That's what something we have to do.
All we can do is wait and see.
Yeah.
Whether we want to or not. It is all that we can really do.
I mean, if Obizzle comes out and he is like, fuck y'all, aliens are real. Right? Like, what? I guess how's it going to go? What is he going to see? Now, this guy is saying that he's going to effectively state that we're at war with them. If we're reading through what we just read through correctly, right? He's going to say something. He's going to, where is this fucking post right here? So it's going to be a bad thing. Now, again, when I hear things like this, when I read things like this, I hear things like this, I hear there's a sense of relief, right? So like, I love watching apocalypse movies. Now, why are apocalypse movies so relaxing for me to watch? Because when I watch apocalypse movies and think about what if my credit card bill goes, right? All my responsibilities go, right?
I suppose so, yeah.
All my responsibilities are gone, right? Now we're just in an apocalypse. I need to worry about all these other fucking pressures in life. They're all gone now, along with my life. For many people. Yeah.
I figured you were going to say that you would be comfortable with them because then you go, I was right.
I was right. No. Yeah, my ego is not involved in this. I try not to get involved. But yeah. It's a shirking of your duties. It's like it's very tempting. I know for me, for a lot of people, I think, but it's a very tempting thing to think, oh, in June, we're going to be locked in our houses, right? The phones will be screaming at us. It's like an exciting thing because there's a lot of monotony in our current civilization, right? There's a lot of bullshit day to day. Like, it's very monotonous. It's very draining. It's very tiring. And that's an exciting thing that happens. And you're like, 2027, they're going to land. And they'll come to me and they'll say, that idea you had was great for that thing. We can make it now. Come on our ship. It's like, oh, finally, someone that recognizes my genius. Or I'm just, just examples of people who might fantasize about, reaching out to these civilizations or just exploring the universe. Maybe that's what you want to do. It's a great fantasy. And so when people write fan fictions, it's like, it hones in on that, right? And as someone over the years who's heard, shit's just gonna get real so many times, and then shit never does. It's almost like every time that real shit happens, you don't realize it's real shit at the moment of it. Like when the whole coup fucking went around, it was like, that wasn't like, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, this will just blow over. And it's like 6 months into it, and everyone's locked in their house. I'm like, oh fuck, like, I didn't really think this is, it's like, wow. And that's someone who's read every fucking conspiracy theory known to goddamn man. So I was like, fuck, that's didn't see that one coming, right? I didn't see that one coming. Some people did, actually, who were maybe a little bit more well read in those corners of the conspiracy world. But it's like this, it's waiting for this to happen. I don't know. I just who knows? Is it going to happen in June? Will Obama come out? Will Obama tell the world?
I just came across this now, and I'll give you a link. Give you a link to this picture. I don't know how valid this is. Just something that I just happened to come across for right now. It's a Twitter post. A post by some guy, some Russian guy. And the translation reads, Today, on Monday night, The Insider will publish one of the most significant investigations in the entire history of its existence. At night, because at the same time as its American investigative partners. History, in every sense of the word, mind-blowing.
Russian.
Are we to trust this particular individual whom we know nothing about?
337,000 views. That's a big post.
It's a big post.
What's the insider, I guess? I was looking at former President Obama meets with Belgian royal family. Car used by Queen during Obama's state visit at Brazil. Former president meets with Belgian officials. He met with the royals more recently. Yeah, interesting.
You can also be meeting with these royal families and say, listen, I got a great pitch for a movie. Okay, it stars me, and it's going to be produced by me, and it's going to be about me when I was president.
Jesus Christ. The Insider is a Russia-focused independent media outlet. We're fully committed to investigative journalists and debunking fake news. 14,000 followers. So this isn't like a big news outlet, unfortunately. Yeah, it's probably some fucking like...
Yeah, it's probably nothing.
Putin's corrupt. Did you know that Putin's corrupt? So
we have
absolute
proof here.
Yeah, absolute proof that Putin,
Vladimir Putin is not exactly telling the truth about everything. That is all.
Is this it? I think they may have just released it. Unraveling Havana Syndrome. New evidence links the GRU's assassination unit to mysterious attacks on Americans at home and abroad. Who is the GRU? The GRU. The Soviet Military Intelligence Organization. The Russian is a general staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. So Russians using sound weapons on diplomats. Ooh, interesting. Okay. All I wanted was to see a doctor. Ex-CIA official tells about his battle with Havana Syndrome. Interesting. Shooting sound waves at people. Kurt Russell's trending. Did he die? No, just this other stuff. Fuck. Oh, the CERN thing too, right? This is something people are talking about. CERN powering up during the April 8th Great North American Eclipse to find dark matter. So for people that
full power on April 8th.
No, this is a North American eclipse, I think only, right? Or is there going to be slightly eclipsed too? It makes sense, maybe in Europe. But the full eclipse is in North America. CERN obviously is in Europe. So maybe just a new precision measurement paving the way into physics. People were going on about People are going on about Yeshiva, the Shiva statue at CERN. The Bhagavad Gita was referenced by Oppenheimer, right? Wasn't it Shiva? This is I am death, the destroyer of worlds. But I think it was a reference to the power that some of these sciences wield, right? Physicists wield. Really, you're dealing with astronomical amounts of power, and I think the Shiva statue there may not have necessarily been like some sacrificial thing where they're like, killing goats and shit, or even people on site, right, to try and open some portal to summon demons. It may be more symbolic in that they're dealing with vast amounts of power, and that they're recognizing that power and kind of it's a callback to these gods that were all powerful. So and then the other thing too was the CERN logo being a bunch of sixes, maybe, but there's like more than 3 if you were to interpret that way. And then like it was 666. There's like all of this like devil worship encoded into CERN. It's kind of like the observatory in Arizona the Vatican owns, that they Lucifer. So there's the San Carlos Apache tribe, I think, that they commandeered the fucking land from them. Like there was a bit of drama supposedly taking the land from the tribe to get that thing built. It was a bit of drama. Anyway, they got it built, and later on they added on an infrared attachment that they named Lucifer. Now again, if you're just like not very how do I say this? If you're like really fundamentalist Christian type, you might say, well, they're Satanists. Of course, but like if you're a little bit more acquainted with Lucifer and with what that word means, the origin of the word, etc., you kind of come to find that Lucifer points towards a celestial object, and that also may have just been a funny acronym, but I think it being an infrared attachment and them using the acronym Lucifer again, I don't think it's an accident either, but I don't think it's some like jab at the Pope as a Satanist. I think it's that they know more than they're letting on what they're looking for. I think John in his remote viewing team also remote viewed that site and that telescope, and they remote viewed the acronym supposedly and what they were looking for, and they're looking for this planet supposedly, according to John again. So 2 correlative things he had, back-to-back videos he released a couple years ago on his channel. He hasn't really released any videos since then, but his team remote viewed the whole deal there, and the observatory was built and the infrared attachment was on so they could try and find this planet, which they were convinced periodically caused fire and brimstone on Earth. Fun, right? A meme. Did you see the time between eclipse graphic? I don't think so. No.
To quote David Childress, if you will, when you really get down to it, Satan wasn't really such a bad guy. And then the clip up.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, he said that on one of the Ancient Alien episodes. One of the ones where they talked about Lucifer, and at the very end, I was like, when you really get down to it, Satan wasn't such a bad guy.
Fucking David stands up, takes his shirt off, fucking big demon on his back, fucking 666 upside down crosses and stuff. Just a huge devil worshiper, huge Satanist. He's not a bad guy. All right.
No, he wouldn't even do that. He'd do that. What was that bitch ass Anton LaVey Satanism?
Yeah.
That's what you get. That's what you get into.
Not the hardcore stuff. Yeah.
He wouldn't even do the real stuff. He's just going to have bitch ass LaVey Satanism.
God damn. Yeah. Just that intro stuff. Yeah. Where is the fucking David Childress? Some people don't know who David Childress is. We meme about him here. Where is the soundboard at? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah.
A pretty interesting theory. However,
that's the sub button that I have, and
literally wash these balls.
Pretty interesting theory, however, pretty much sums up every Sunday here.
Well, yeah, I know. That's the meme. I love that. I would love to have a chat with David. I love David. David's a huge meme. Yeah.
Someday he may grace you.
I don't think so. I guarantee you, if he ever catches a fucking VOD, he would just be like, no. I think that's probably about 95% of people that I've reached out to fucking to come on have looked and watched through the VODs and be like, no. You have to understand the meme, huh?
They watch through one and they go through that like semen retention one that we talked about. And they're just like, no,
yeah,
no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, you gotta let loose. You gotta say, guys, you gotta let loose a little bit. Everybody's so uptight with things. I mean, obviously, like, I probably need to start clipping these things better. I still need to find an editor, but I don't like being too like formal. Like I find the conversation sometimes becomes very frigid, and it just it's unnatural. There's like an unnaturalness to it. People kind of curate themselves a little bit. It's not what I'm looking for, but you know, it's not as natural. I like natural conversation. I like just kind of saying whatever. I think people need to do that more. Sometimes they kind of dress things up a bit too much for me. Obviously there's like that you need people who are kind of formal, right? You're going to sit down and, you know, in front of Congress. And yes, I have all the documents here, but like, that's not my vibe, right? Like, I like kind of having a bit of an informal atmosphere. I think that kind of brings out people's character a bit more. I like kind of get to know people's character. And I think sometimes people maybe are hesitant to come and talk like that because they're trying to keep that out of what they're doing a little bit. Like they're trying to just be a messenger, or they're trying to be a journalist, or they're trying to be whatever, and they don't want that to really happen. That's why I loved Joe's podcast so much. I love Joe Rogan's podcast, although a lot of the times, yeah, it's like fucking bro talk and, you know, whatever. But it was this informal setting where he was able to kind of bring out people's character, and he was able, and some people were afraid of that and they didn't like it. I think that's why they were nervous going on there. But these long form conversations that are like unedited, unclipped, it's you just kind of, you get to who people really are and what they really think. Shouldn't say believe necessarily, but in some cases what they believe. And I liked that. I like doing that. I think it's a much more natural way to communicate. Personally, take a pic of it and send it to someone, but you can't find the post. Oh, thanks, man.
I think they kind of just add to what you were saying. I think some of that might be, depends on like if they're growing a brand or not. And then if they do have a brand, do they fear like losing that brand for whatever reason? So now when you go on, Rogan kind of built his whole thing. So it would be kind of like, suppose that you have like somebody that comes on and then you're going through like an informal atmosphere and they're trying to build up their like name to be taken as like, well, say like accredited journalist or something. We'll talk about in like the UFO field, you know, and somebody comes on, they have this exciting new thing and they're telling a story and then they're just like, oh yeah, you know, let me tell you about the time I shit my pants, you know, and I was going to go to the bathroom and I just mistimed it a little bit, you know, and it just went all down my backside. And then, like, some other person would hear that, and they'd just be like, I'm not listening to anybody that shit your pants. I never shat my pants in my life.
Fuck. Yeah.
And so, I wonder if there's, like, a fear of that, like, where people don't just want to, maybe they feel like that, like, them being themselves is just not good enough, so they need to like be above what their selves are.
They won't be taken seriously. Maybe if they're on, if they're in an informal setting, they don't think that they can be taken seriously. But I think it's a bit of a farce sometimes in that if what you're talking about is objectively worth something, then I think it should be taken seriously. Maybe not by everybody, because I think a lot of people kind of do appeal to authority things sometimes, and they will, like the general population will, like they'll take something more seriously if it's presented like in a more serious way, without really understanding that maybe objectively the information isn't really worth anything, but that formal setting, that communication then makes it appear more valuable than it really is. And I think when you're talking about ideas, it's important sometimes, at least I think personally, not to really throw them around too much in that setting, because if you're throwing them around in an informal setting, we can kind of really get to the value of the idea itself, not really the package that it's bundled up in, right? And I think that's important, and I think that's in part why, you know, I like, again, having this kind of setting when we're talking about ideas and things.
Just let me propose this to you. Suppose you have like two settings, and One of them is giving very serious information. One of them is giving, the very, very important information. One of them is just kind of giving like unimportant information. But we'll say that the tone of the message that's being presented is flipped. So you get somebody that goes to, they go to like a government hearing. It's very serious. They got judges. Everything is formal. And they say, listen, under oath, I pooped my pants. Okay, I did it while I was while I was in my office the other day, but it's very serious compared to somebody else, that's had like a couple brews, maybe smoked a couple joints, maybe even took a bump of coke or something, and they're just like, the other day I actually talked to an alien. Oh yeah, you know what he said? You know what he said to me? He said our planet's over. It's done. It's fucked. But like you take that in like something, and everybody's laughing like, oh man, I can't believe the alien said that. He's talking trash. They know how to talk trash. Yeah. So like one of them you can just kind of take off the cuff, because it's but the other one is serious. You go like, oh my god, I can't believe he pooped his pants. He said it under oath.
Right.
So I wonder if there's a little bit of bias in that, where if you're having just like a natural conversation, if you really want to make your message serious, you kind of have to go through it in that formal setting. I think.
And I get it though. Yeah. At the same time, I get that you don't want to package it up too informally. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but when you're trying to, but I like the informal setting though, because I think you can still have serious conversation as well. But I like the fluid nature of it, where, especially because again, I think when you're trying to talk about something like we're talking about aliens and ufology and schizo things, like I think you kind of need to have a bit of an informal setting to really get the full picture of it. Because if it's too much of a formal setting, you're going to be too afraid to kind of jump to these like far parts of the swamp at times, which you kind of I think need to go to. And that's why I think sometimes this conversation still struggles in some like formal formats, like it just, they're not quite there. And I get why they're hesitant to dig into some of these like kind of wooey or wackier topics as well. But so again, no, that's a good point. I think it depends on the seriousness of the message too. But we're getting to the point.
It depends on how they want to be taken, I think. If they truly don't care, then they're probably just like, look, I'm going to put the information out there, take it as you see it. Whereas somebody very much really like wants to make sure people hear it, they might be more inclined to go to like a more formal setting for it.
Because
I had a thought too about this just now, but it then escaped me. I had it, I lost it, and I had it again, and now I lost it again.
Fuck.
Maybe it'll come back to me in just a second.
I mean, we're talking about this because we want other people to come on the show and hang out. And it's like...
now I remember. Yeah, so I can't remember what this is called in psychology, but there's like... You've probably heard of the phenomenon that people tend to act differently when they know they're being observed compared to when they don't know they're being observed.
Yeah.
So there could be a little bit of that too. So like if you're having a natural conversation, but you have it on like a stream or on television or on a radio show or something, there's likely an element that both parties that would be having the conversation are very aware that there's something that they're being recorded, that they're being observed.
Right.
So there might be just a little bit different tone to it. There'd be a little bit of a different, like somebody might not be able to be their authentic self while being observed, compared to if you have what you call off the record, where there's no cameras, no recordings or anything. Somebody would be like, oh yeah, I'll really tell you what's going on, because they feel more comfortable in that kind of situation because they know they're not being observed. It's like I think that's like how particles work, or that's like a thing on like quantum mechanics, where when you observe particles, they act differently than when they're unobserved. I can't remember.
They're affected some people suggest they might be affected by our consciousness. Some people think they might be affected by like photons coming out of our eyes or something. No, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Is that like how the random number generators work? Do you ever hear that like supposedly like people can have like a little influence over random number generators?
Yeah, I have. Well, this is like philosophy of mind stuff. This is nature consciousness shit. Yeah, but if there's some kind of effect that our consciousness has on the world, like actually, and yeah, I have heard that. Yeah, it's very interesting. What does it suggest? I guess. Do we psychically have some kind of effect on our surroundings? So it is like brainwaves affecting these things. Is there something to do with consciousness itself having an effect, right, at these fundamental levels?
You know what it might prove? It might prove that the Lacerda files are wrong.
Could very well.
Because they talked about how humans have no psychic potential.
Well,
but how are they doing that if we can manipulate these RNGs or these random number generators?
How did Uri Geller bend all those fucking spoons on his car? Like,
well, that was a magic. That was a magic trick.
No. Like he told me he did it, so he did it, right? What's this here? 6 months, 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days between eclipses. First coronavirus vaccine.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
14th. Center
yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier.
So
was that number there?
This is significant. Interesting.
Except it's 4 6s, not 3 6s.
Yes.
So three 6s would be the number of the beast.
So is this some kind of? So is the universe like satanic? Is this what they're trying to say, or?
I don't know, but I've also heard the number of the beast is actually also 660, not 666. But
I don't know how that's. It's the super devil.
It could be. Well, he doesn't have his jar of marmalade that allows people to commit adultery.
What? Oh, fuck.
Oh, it was a Family Guy thing, I think. It's a super devil.
Okay.
He rides on a flying motorcycle, and he carries it that makes people commit adultery.
Oh my god. I don't even know that this. I mean, the significant. I have some ideas about the significance of number 7, but the 6 number, yeah, it's just like, oh my god. It's all biblical stuff. He is risen. He is risen. He is risen. Well, Galentv, maybe that should be where we end it here now on the mark of the devil here on this day where he is risen.
Leave it with the devil.
Leave it with the devil. On
consider it Satan, but also consider that Satan wasn't really such a bad guy after all.
And I think that's where we'll leave it. We do not worship Satan. Just TLDR. We do not worship the Dark Lord. Well, I don't. I can't speak for Galentv, actually. He very well might.
I worship the Dark Lord. If he was really truly so great, why was he considered the dark? Wouldn't he be the good Lord then?
Well, he got cast out. So
then why would I worship an inferior being?
He wasn't for formal settings. He kind of liked the informal setting, right? The chaotic. True. He liked the chaos, which is kind of like what we like too, a little bit. Where we go? We better end this before we get too deep fucking here on this. So, everybody,
here we go.
Yeah, Skiz0. Thank you for coming around, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Skiz0 Sunday. Yeah, it's good to see everybody. Galentv, it's always a blessing, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, and maybe you'll have me back again.
Maybe. Until next time, everybody. Sleep tight.
Streaming through the digital night, Jim Bustle, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown, UFOs in the alien zone. He's a man on a mission, exploring ancient secrets, it's his addiction, debating, discussing with his loyal crew, cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.